You wake up at 5:50 without an alarm. Your body learned this hour before your mind agreed to it. Not hustle culture, not a podcast bro yelling about morning routines. You just go to bed at 9, and your body pays you back for it. The apartment is a one-bedroom above a laundromat in a part of town nobody photographs for a real estate listing. You've rented it for 11 years. Your rent is $890 a month in a city where new leases go for $1,700. Your landlord hasn't raised it since 2019 because you never call about anything and you always pay on the first. You are worth $1.6 million. Nobody knows this. Not your building manager, not your coworkers, not your cousin Marcus, who leases a Tesla and posts the payment screenshot like it's a diploma. You just liked the photo and said nothing. You wear the same gray hoodie you've had since grad school. You own 3. This isn't poverty cosplay. It's the relief of never having to decide what you are that day. You make oatmeal instead of buying the $7 breakfast sandwich from the place downstairs. That's about $1,500 a year. But the money was never really the point. The point was becoming someone who makes a decision once and never relitigates it every single morning. While the oatmeal cooks, you check the number. 90 seconds, same as always. It's the only minute of the day you spend on money. $1.1 million sits in 3 index funds, untouched since you started at 23. You didn't sell in 2020 when it dropped hard in a matter of weeks. You didn't sell in 2022 when everyone online was certain the whole thing was rigged and finished. You bought anyway, every 2 weeks on autopilot, like feeding a version of yourself that hasn't been born yet. $310,000 sits in a taxable account. That's the bridge, the money that lets you stop working before retirement accounts unlock. $70,000 sits in cash. It does almost nothing, and that's the entire job description. Cash isn't for growing. Cash is for never being forced to sell something at the worst possible time. $120,000 sits in a fund for your nephew that nobody in the family knows exists. You close the laptop. The market will do whatever it wants today, and you will do nothing about it. That took years to learn and cost nothing but patience. You take the bus to work, not because you can't afford a car. You could buy one outright tomorrow, but because you did the math once, 10 years ago, and never needed to do it again. At the stop, a guy pulls up next to the curb in a leased SUV, dealer plates still on it. Statistically, he's paying around $780 a month for it. $780 a month invested instead at a reasonable return is close to $900,000 over 30 years. That SUV isn't a vehicle. It's a version of his own future that just drove away without him. You still work. Operations coordinator. 9 years in, $71,000 a year. Real money, but nowhere near explains the number money. Nobody suspects the guy with the 11-year-old backpack could pay off the whole building. You work because the alternative is boredom, and because every paycheck now is optional. That changes how you sit in a meeting. When your manager pushes a plan that doesn't make sense, you say so, plainly. You can afford to be honest, which is the most expensive thing in any office, and you're one of the few people fully paid up for it. Mid-morning, a coworker catches you by the coffee machine. Priya, 24, sharp, quietly panicking. Can I ask you something? You seem like you have your stuff together. I've got $6,000 in credit card debt, and I genuinely don't know where it went. You don't lecture her. You remember being 24 and how debt feels less like a number and more like a verdict on your character. Want the 2 things that actually changed it for me, you say? Move money to savings the second you're paid, before you can touch it, and never let a balance sit on anything that isn't growing. That's it. Everything past that is commentary. You don't tell her what you're worth. You never tell anyone. But that afternoon, you send her the spreadsheet someone sent you at 23. Lunch is rice and beans you made Sunday, maybe $1.10 a serving. Coworkers order $16 delivery and complain about rent in the same breath. You used to feel superior about this. You're not proud of that anymore.
Somewhere past your first $400,000, the superiority wore off and something quieter replaced it. Other people's spending stopped being a scoreboard. You don't eat rice and beans to prove anything. You genuinely don't want the $16 version more. That's the part nobody can package into a course. Past a certain point, frugality stops being sacrifice and becomes preference. The door's been unlocked for years. You just like the room you're in. Your phone buzzes at 1:40. Your sister, her car needs a new transmission. $2,200 she doesn't have. You can hear her trying to sound calm. I'll send it this afternoon, you say. It's not a loan. Cars break. That's not a character flaw. You move $2,200 from cash. It refills quietly for money you never notice missing. $2,200 is 0.14% of what you have. For your sister, it was a crisis, about to go on a card at 26% interest, on track to become $3,400, paid back over 2 years. The best return you'll ever get isn't in a fund. It's deleting a 5-alarm problem from someone you love.
Mid-afternoon, a pair of sneakers you've wanted for a year drops to $210. You could buy 10 pairs without noticing. You put them in the cart. Then you run the same 3 questions you've run for a decade. Will I still want this in 30 days? Am I buying the object or the feeling? Who am I actually buying it for? You sit with the third one longest. The honest answer is, for people who will glance at your feet for 1 second and think nothing at all. You close the tab. Not out of willpower, out of recognition. You already stopped paying for strangers' opinions years ago. You just forgot for 10 minutes. Someday, if anyone finds out, they'll assume crypto, or an inheritance, or a lucky stock. There was no inheritance. Your dad drove a delivery truck for 31 years and left you nothing but a habit. Never carry debt you can avoid, and never spend a raise before you felt its absence for a month.
At 23, you started putting away 18% of a $38,000 salary. It felt like losing a limb. Every raise after that, half went to your life, half went to the machine, until the machine was quietly eating 30% of a salary that had nearly doubled, and you'd stopped feeling it entirely. You were never a genius investor. You were just someone who stopped interrupting the process. 11 years. That's the whole secret. There is no secret, just a long corridor with no windows and no applause. Your net worth crossed $100,000 after 6 years. The next $100,000 took 2 years. The last $100,000 took 4 months. No windows in that corridor, but there's an exit, and the exit looks exactly like an ordinary Tuesday. You get home at 6:15. Marcus is in the parking lot, waxing the Tesla. He waves. Marcus makes more than you. Marcus is winning by every visible measure. You'd guess Marcus couldn't survive 3 months without a paycheck. You're not better than Marcus. The car makes him happy, and there's no line item for that on a balance sheet. But you've also seen the other version of this story. Your dad, laid off at 55 with $4,000 in the bank, and a look on his face you never wanted to cause in yourself. At 20, in one flat, permanent moment, you decided nobody would ever do that to you. Every identical hoodie, every bus ride, every automatic transfer. A promise a 20-year-old made and kept. People see a small apartment and a bus pass. They can't see the promise behind it. Invisible wealth is still wealth. Visible wealth, half the time, is just expensive noise. You call your partner during dinner. You didn't build this alone. 2 years in, they told you they had $4,000 saved and a plan. And you knew. One money fight in 9 years. Resolved the same way every time it threatened to happen again. 15 minutes, first Sunday of the month. Numbers on the table, no surprises. Most money problems in a relationship aren't math problems. They're secret problems. You removed the secrets. After dinner, you walk your usual loop. A podcast this morning asked, "What's your number? When is it finally enough?" You passed your number about $600,000 ago. Nothing happened. No fireworks. The number just got bigger, and you were still the same person, walking the same loop. That's the part that only makes sense after the money arrives. The finish line was never real. What the money actually gave you happened years earlier, in pieces. The day you stopped dreading your bank app. The day a rumor of layoffs bored you instead of terrifying you. The day you said no and meant it. Wealth was never the number. Wealth is how many problems quietly stop being problems. Transmission, layoff, market crash, friend in trouble. No problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. You're not a genius. You're just a machine that turns money into calm. That's the whole business. You read in bed. Tomorrow, one meeting, a dentist appointment, your nephew's birthday next month. One day, he'll open a letter explaining what's been quietly growing since before he could talk. That will be the loudest thing your money ever does. Today, you earned $290, spent $19, gave away $2,200, and walked away from a pair of sneakers. Nobody clapped. Nobody knows. Tomorrow, the market opens, moves however it moves, and you do nothing about it. Beautifully. Again. Because once money is actually permanently yours, it stops needing to be loud. And so do you.